Parenting is an adventure, and like any other adventure, you've got to work hard and be prepared.
The quest is on.
We're in search for all things parenting. We hear from the kids, from the professionals, and from you, real parents on real issues. It's all happening right here, right now on Care.
Care, the adventures of parenting.
Hi, welcome to Care. I am smiling a lot because in the background is my assistant producer, who is Jessie Lee, so I'm hearing her telling me action. It is a new episode, and we have, I think this might be my favorite episode, because it is all about the draft parenting policy. That's what we're talking about. If you don't know that it's going on, please visit Ministry of Social Development and get in the know. This, of course, affects all of us as parents. So joining us, we have Mr. Michael Reed, who is the Director of Policy Planning and Research at the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. We also have joining us Ms. Asha Wilson, who works at, you're a founder, co-founder at Rainbow Rescue, Home for Socially Displaced Boys. She's also the secretary to the board of the Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and she's on the committee of the Children's Home Authority. So we have some good ones today.
Thank you.
I hope I'm not going to drill Mr. Reed too much.
I hope so.
I hope so. Because I'm going to like him a little bit, knowing him in person, sitting down here. Let's start.
Okay.
You all want to start with me questioning, or you want to start?
You can start.
I can start?
Yes.
All right. My first question, I have to smile, right? You guys had a specially invited guest type consultation before you'd invited the public.
Yes.
How did you all choose who got invited?
Well, we looked at the some stakeholders that we are accustomed working with, and some that we thought needed to be at that consultation. It was mainly geared towards other ministries, other government ministries, academia, some of the NGOs that are parent focused. We invited them.
What I'd noticed on the social media pages, a lot of the special needs groups cried out because they wanted to know if there was any representation at all. I'd noticed the response being that, well, homeschooling falls under Ministry of Education, so it would have been the onus of Ministry of Education to invite homeschool, yes?
No, but we knew that we were going to have public consultations.
Okay.
So, and we cannot interact with every group.
Agreed, but Homeschooling Association is a big association, so is special needs. So I would like to think that, you know, you have a lot of NGOs and whatnot, but those two associations should probably have been there.
In terms of special needs, we would have a number of other disability organizations that would have been invited.
So they were there?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'll have to check to see if they were there, but they were invited.
They were invited?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's important to know. So that answers that question, because I know that the special needs community, they were particularly interested in knowing who were invited from their community.
Yeah, and what we're also doing is in the subsequent consultations, we're also looking at groups within the community. So once there is a group that operates from a particular community, they would be invited also. So we've done that with the last consultation that we had.
Awesome. So that covers that. Asha, you were part of the group that got specially invited. So we've met with Asha, right?
Well, that's how I reached out to you, yeah?
Yes. You had some concerns or some questions about the policy. You've seen it, right? You've seen it
Yes.
more than the viewers might have been able to see it.
Okay.
What's your take on that?
All right.
You were part of this
Yes,
policy.
yes.
Okay.
Part of the policy, the consultation. So I actually went in the capacity of the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So basically they were invited and they had asked me to represent on their behalf. While we were there, I don't know if you know how the layout was done, but we were put in different groups on about 10 different tables.
Yes.
So I would say about approximately 100 people. So at the table I was at, table 5, we had representatives from the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. We had a YTC representative, somebody from the Ministry of Community Development, Office of the Prime Minister, and National Alcohol Abuse, the NADA program. You know, so I thought we had a very well-informed session. But funny enough, well, not funny, ironically, we did have concerns that you addressed earlier in terms of special needs and homeschooling. There were certain elements that weren't outlined in the policy that we felt that was important. Now, it does touch on special needs and what is the role of parents, with special needs children and so on. The policy does touch on that. It does touch on some gender issues. It does touch on some of the, what was the homeschool? Well, actually, homeschooling, I think.
No, it wasn't specific.
It wasn't specific in the homeschooling, but somebody did bring it up when we did begin to share. So it did not go unrecognized, your concerns that you wanted to address, And
Will these consultations be minuted in any way where we can, so that there's a transparent process, so that there's not a feeling, I know there's certainly a feeling right now that, look, this is set in stone and this is all just a smoke screen and we're really not going to have any say?
Yes, well, these sessions are recorded, video, audio, and we have rapporteurs that will take notes. And those notes would then go back to the team that would be working to revise the policy. So we'll compile all the rapporteur notes from all the consultations and consider them.
Awesome. I'm going to go on a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about that word revised. Don't go anywhere, guys. You're watching Care. Today it is all about the draft parenting policy. Don't go anywhere. To enter every show smiling from ear to ear because it is so cute having her say stand by an action. Guys, you're watching Care. Today it is all about the parenting policy. We ended with you talking about, you mentioned the word revised, right? On the website, what I notice is that it comes across as if this is policy already. It also, I noticed they have a 2015 edited version, and then, of course, there's a 2017. Do we currently have a parenting policy?
It is in green paper form.
Okay.
That means that it's in draft.
Okay. So Trinidad and Tobago currently does not have
a
parenting policy.
An approved parenting policy. It is in draft, and that's why we're going out to consultations.
Okay.
When we have completed the consultations, we would revise it, and then it goes through another process before it becomes a white paper and public.
Because on the website, it reads a little bit weird. It doesn't have, I know on the hard copy, it has like the draft sort of watermarked in it and stuff. So I was asking, I'm confused, and then, it said 2015, last updated 2015.
Yeah, well, in 2015, the Ministry of Gender, Child and Youth and Child Development, they were responsible for that policy then. As a matter of fact, they were the ones who drafted the entire policy. What we did in 2017 was really update it, revise it to reflect the present reality.
Okay.
So we didn't do too many substantial changes to the policy. So this is why we are having the consultations now. And when that is completed, as I said, we then revise it.
When do you estimate that this is going to be completed?
We want to finish this by the end of May.
And how long should it take to then be passed as actual policy?
Well, I can't say how long the process will be, but there are a number of steps that we have to take. But what I can say is that it doesn't stop us from implementing any aspect of the policy. Okay. As a matter of fact, some of the things that we speak to in the policy already exist.
Right. Well, I have a question about that. I just want to stay on this point for a little bit because Donald Bermond of Men Against Women, Against Violence Against Women, he was part of a group somewhere in like 14 years ago in the 90s.
2004.
When they'd done this sort of consultation. They then put together a smaller group. They worked on it for a year and presented the then the then minister. I mean, I have seen this policy, or what you might call it. I mean, it's 150 pages, and nothing was done with it. So I know, I mean, he had made a social media post about it to say, look, their recommendations hasn't changed in 14 years. Why are we now going back to this when money was spent? You know, and he spoke about $60,000 just on basic expenses for the 19-member committee. Have we visited, have you guys looked, been privy to this information, to this 150-page document?
Well, we know that one of the recommendations was to have a parenting policy. So this is one of the recommendations that we
Okay, to pull out of.
yes,
Okay.
that we'll go forward with.
All right. So let's dive into the parenting policy itself. Okay?
Yes.
No, I have one more question about the committee first. So your statement on your Facebook page. The policy will see the development of family service centers within the various communities, and its implementation will be monitored by a multi-sectoral steering committee. So you know, I want to know who on that committee
Okay.
and how that committee gonna be selected if they're not already selected.
No, that committee is not going to be selected until the policy has been approved. We intend to have the relevant government ministries. We intend to have international bodies that we partner with, NGOs, of course, and parents being part of that policy, that committee.
That committee.
And the
What's-
committee would come up with indicators to measure how the policy, the implementation is progressing. And of course, at the end of it, they'll do a report to see where we have reached, what we need to do.
So shameless plug, right? Last year I presented 2 ideas on parenting for sustainable nation at the Arthur Lockjack School. How does my voice get heard in something like this?
Well, we
When we speak specifically to like that sort of detailed presentation that would have been made.
we have our website. We have, that is www.social.gov.tt, and we have an email address, NPP, National Parenting Policy, npp@social.gov.tt, and anyone is free to email us any information that would be helpful in us going forward to revise this policy.
Awesome. Gonna put a pin on you again because we have finance and the family to help us all get through these economic times. As much as you will know, the best parents in the world, if they have no money, it becomes difficult to parent effectively. So finance and the family is up next.
Budget for birthdays. The number of birthday party invites can become overwhelming when your children enter primary school. Each party invite means finding extra income to present a half-decent present. If you plan ahead, buy a handful of presents during sales, then you can avoid purchasing any old overpriced item out of last-minute desperation. This is also useful for Christmas presents. Buy during sales and store them. The more you plan ahead, the better your family's financial statement will read.
Welcome back to CARE. Today it is about the Green Paper Parenting Policy. That means we do not currently have a parenting policy, but this is your opportunity, parents of Trinidad and Tobago, to get involved, have your voices heard, because once, of course, it gets set, then you know, you gotta abide by it. Which takes me to my question. How do you intend to implement this?
It would not be something that government alone would be implementing, because we certainly can't do everything concerning parenting.
Right.
So it would involve a number of players besides government, NGOs in particular, whether it be CBOs, FBOs, and there would be some aspects of the policy that they would be responsible for. Additionally, parents would be responsible for some aspects
How
of
do you get parents to parent?
that. That is an interesting question.
See Ashley's face.
That
Ashley,
is
have a
an
suggestion there?
Well, not to interject, but what I thought was interesting, okay, first of all, I'm wearing a few different hats
Yes.
at this consultation, right? So going as a board member of the Coalition Against Domestic Violence, working as an NGO. Now, my mother is the founder, number one and only. All credit due to her, Miss Judy Wilson of Rainbow Rescue. But I'm coming on now, you know, to help. Well, anyway, I just moved back into the country. So wearing the different hats, we were discussing earlier that, you know, when you have this interministerial or interagency committee informing the parenting policy, most of the people that are on there, whether they're representing the NGOs or the CBOs or, you know, the ministries, they themselves are parents. So, you know, not to say that you shouldn't want parents involved, but what I thought was interesting in coming to the consultation, I can't say doing the little research before, but Googling, doing a little Google search on parenting policies to see, well, what do we expect? How do we go forward? Implementation, I mean, what is a parenting policy? What tended to come up was parenting support policies. They have nations that have parental support. So I think one of the focus, because we cannot go into people's homes and say, are you following the parenting policy and you know, parenting according to what the government has outlined, but providing support for parents. So when you talk about the financial tips and so on, how are the different agencies supported by government, by corporates, by NGOs? How are parents supported by these different arms in order to fulfill their parental duties?
Okay.
That was one of the...
Can I play devil's advocate there?
Play devil's advocate.
Okay,
let's do
because
that.
the draft policy proposes to deliver the following products, right? One of them, it says financial support for low-income families. Now, the truth is, I work in schools a lot. I remember doing a camp once, and I am telling you, the children clothes, they all had food for KFC. They specifically wanted that for lunch. They didn't want any cheese-based sandwich. And these are the children that met the needs test to come to the camp. They had no uniform, they needed all sorts of help for school. But come vacation time, they were well decked out. So the truth is, and I mean, yes, there are some who genuinely need it. But you go through and teachers will tell you box lunches are wasted. I've seen it. On the days where there's curry, everybody's lining up. On the days where there's provision, all of a sudden everybody could afford food. Bottled water's lying down all over the place. So I'm of the opinion, I mean, I have some real out of the different types of opinions, but I don't think parents really need that kind of, necessarily that kind of financial support. How do you, because right now I think that we already have a high social budget, and it's causing a kind of a hand, gimme mentality, then, and it's not matching with responsibility. You know, the parents are not necessarily rising to the occasion because they're getting support when the month comes.
Well, if I may answer.
Okay.
We are in the planning process of rolling out a program called Step Up, which is a program that would take persons, low-income persons, and bring them to a point where they no longer need that support. So they would actually graduate from the from the support. So would
and if
involve.
you're failing to step up, then does that mean you are no longer, you'll be barred from having that support?
Well, we want to be humane while we are doing it. But of course,
I understand that, but if for 5-10 years you're continuing to put your hand out We're feeding you while we're teaching you to fish. But at some point, you need to graduate to fishing, right? To be able to feed yourself. So what plans do we have in place to say, okay, you've had enough, we've taught you to fish, now go fish?
One of the things that we want to put into that step-up program is decreasing benefits, decreasing financial support over the years.
Okay.
So you would get a certain amount this year, next year, it'll be this minus some amount, you know?
Okay.
So it would not be as attractive to continue in
right.
that.
I have to go on break. Is your comment 30 seconds or less?
I will
You will wait, okay?
Sorry, continue.
No, that's fine.
We're going to Care Tech Tip because a part of parenting is learning to be responsible with technology. Care Tech Tip is next.
A great way to find out what's going on in the tech world of your kid is to spend time with them while they're on their gadgets. Spend time playing their online games, watching their favorite YouTube series, or just cuddle with them while they're on it. Most times, younger kids aren't intentionally using their tech toys inappropriately, and if your teen is always secretive about the tech stuff, then that may be a clue that something's up.
If I left my slippers outside, he will come over and choke me and throw me by the slippers for me to put it on. Literally lift me high in the air and throw me right by the slippers for me to put on the slippers, and I better put it on fast, or else it's more of that. And with the bread and stuff, I had to sit there whole night with licks on top of it. He never used to beat us with any like belt or anything. It was mostly fist and hand, sometimes feet too. I can't really remember how old I was, but from ever since I could remember, from small as I think it's about 7, I could start to remember from. But I think it was going on before that as well too. But I would say 7 years old. As a child, like when I was getting abused, I used to say, well, I kind of deserve it, and because I thought that was originally, I thought that was normal licks, because I didn't have the sense at the time. So I used to say, well, it's normal, I did something wrong, all right, but I still thought that something was wrong. But then when I used to see mommy getting abused, I knew something was wrong with it, because something inside of me just knew a man not supposed to be beating up a woman like that. It affected me pretty bad, starting from primary school as well, even with my friends out on the streets. I used to be very aggressive, even with the girls in school. At first, I used to just take everything from everybody, and one day, I couldn't take anymore. This anger just came out, and girl, boy, teacher, everybody will get it. I fighting with everybody. I cursing everybody at the same time.
This was in primary school?
Yeah. I think I got suspended 8 times in primary school. When I was home for a week, I used to be in the road, like when playing football, so the slightest thing that happened in the road, which normal friends happen to make a mistake and hit you or something, I never used to take it. I used to find a stone or something and skate behind somebody. Because I was really scrawny and skinny, right? I always tell myself, I cannot live like this and watch my mom getting beat up all the time. I getting beat up all the time. My sisters, my brothers. So I need to try and do something about it. So I went and learned kickboxing. So I started lift weights and stuff. So once I tried to fight back with him, I think that was about, yeah, when I now joined kickboxing. So I tried to fight back with him, but even though he had catch me on guard, I know I can't put up with him still. Okay, he was way bigger than me still, and I tried. I was sitting there and I was watching TV, and all I felt was a slap came from the right side of my ears, and I was on the floor on the next minute, and all I was feeling was kicks straight in my ribs, in my face, all over my body. So I really couldn't fight back then. But just the other day, I think it was last 2 months, he came back and he came upstairs because he had a restraining order on him. Mommy wasn't there, and he tried to come and abuse my sister. So he started off quarreling. So I came outside and said, well, what are you doing upstairs? Because I was still trying to keep the best relationship I could keep with him, because that's my father. And he didn't want to hear nothing. He carried on and carried on. He walked downstairs and started to ramble and ramble. So eventually, it turned out to the fighting side. And when I defend myself, he realized he couldn't fight with me anymore, and he just stopped. And I am 21 now. I maintain respect for him because I go to church and stuff, and I read the Bible, and I believe that you must always have respect for your mother and father, no matter what they do, even though they might be wrong and you mightn't want to accept that. You must still respect your parents. I came over the violent period when I started to be more active in training, and mommy sent me counseling and stuff like that, stuff to take out all the bottled up anger inside and place it somewhere. So when a situation arises, I might be still mad, but not as before. Some coping mechanisms is that you could use sports, you could use anything that you like or you're interested in, even painting, drawing, anything that will take your mind off of the situation where it is going on, even though the situation mightn't be in front of your face at the moment, you will still have it bottled up inside. So you take your passion or anything you like to do and you just do it and put most of your efforts into it. And some parts of the anger will just easily drift away with some counseling. For a person went through abuse and went through any kind of struggles in life that you don't like, you always have to keep yourself on P's and Q's. You have to watch what you do. You have to always watch what you do, because unconsciously you could end up doing the same exact thing, because as a child you grew up seeing that all your life, and behind your mind, your subconscious might think, well, this is how to live. So you always have to keep yourself at the edge. The main thing about this, if you really don't want to be like the person, you always need forgiveness. If you don't forgive the person who caused the abuse or you felt caused the abuse, you really need to forgive, because if you hold that person in your heart subconsciously again, you will just end up just like the person who you hate. And one more thing on the forgiveness. Forgiveness is just not one day you could just wake up and forgive somebody. It's a process now. So every day, try to forgive and forgive and forgive. Although the person mightn't be in your face at the moment, or you might want to see them, you need to still try to release the person from your heart. And one day, you eventually would like to see the person and hug them up and give them a kiss and say, well, I forgive you, let's try again. And the advice to parents is, you always need to look at what you're doing in front of children, even though with a small quarrel you might have between husband and wife, you need to watch what you say. Because the way how the wife might talk to the child, the son might feel, well, that's how a woman's supposed to talk to me. And how the father would talk to the wife, the daughter would think that is how a man's supposed to talk to a woman. So you will need to be careful at every single thing you do in front of a child.
Welcome back to CARE. Today it is about the draft parenting policy. Before we went on break, Asha was about to explode, so we're going to let her explode.
I'm not going to explode anymore.
It's all about feeding or equipping to fish for themselves. That's what we're about to debate.
Okay, no, but I am all about the, you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life, and this is true, but when we have to understand low-income families and supporting low-income families, we have to remember also too that it does take a village to raise a child, right? Nobody can do it on their own. And low income doesn't necessarily only mean that I don't have enough money to buy groceries and so I am going to put my hand out. And contrary to popular belief, I don't think anybody feels good having to depend on the government to be able to feed your child, right? I mean, nobody wants to say, yeah, I'm going to stay on welfare for the rest of my life. This is easy. From a sociological perspective, certain things, that it doesn't add up. You want to be able to give your child the KFC. You want to be able to give your child the best clothes during summer. You want to be able to support most parents, right? So when we talk about low income and the social services to support, you have to remember that there are parents coming out of domestic violence situations. You have to remember that there are parents with special needs children that don't have the first idea of how to deal with them or the finances. Certain institutions that deal with autism and so on, I mean, just to get an assessment is sometimes $3,000, and they are in 3,000 TT, and they are NGOs as well, right? And so I know even working with the children that come into our care, they might be able to, if I make a request, they might be able to get funding for, for an individual child coming out of a children's home and so on, but the average parent is not going to have that kind of connection. So when we talk about social services and providing support for parents and teaching parents how to fish, we cannot do that without having that support system there, because it's not just a matter of not having enough money.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
And when I talk about giving them the tools to fish, I don't mean putting them in a job.
Right.
Because the tools to fish is not helping them necessarily. To be able to earn an income is so much more, right? When I work with moms, right, the first step is to dig deep into their history because somebody told them that they weren't worth anything.
Right.
So you have to get rid of their psyche for them to even believe that they are able and they are worth earning money. So when I start to say, what life do you want? That takes so much breaking down for them to even believe, wait, you mean I'm worth my child having a better life? I'm worth this, I'm worth that. So I absolutely 100% agree that we need, we need to start to take things into consideration. We need people who are, past victims of abuse, because then of course they become, chances are, abusers without even realizing that they are continuing that cycle. So I totally understand, and that's what I mean by, because I do think that we have this, okay, well, let's give them money. And it's like, but that's not actually what they need. That's, and it may not even be what they need. If we would take them now, because I know of people who you give their money, they're even earning lots of money, but they're not able to be responsible parents because more than money, they need that psychological help.
There has to be a holistic approach, you know, that
And
touches
of course,
on
as a
everything.
single mother, I know what it's like to fix. That's how, which is of course why I do work, because everybody was working, so there's this gap in between work and school, and how do you do it? I mean, I'm driving around like a big pregnant woman by myself, doing it all by myself. I've done it 100% by myself until I made a decision. Something has to change because I'm not prepared, and I had said that. I was not prepared to live the same life and have my daughter live the life that I lived. So something had to change, and I'm really grateful for the mentors that came in my life to be able to say, listen, first you need to move out of where you live in because your whole view of life needs to change, right? I need to go. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Care. Hi, welcome back to Care. This is normally the segment where we go to tell me your business, but apparently I started talking my business and Asha is interested in continuing to hear. So y'all are gonna get to hear my business as Tell Me Your Business. As you guys know, Tell Me Your Business is a segment created out of my passion for parents not working. That would have been one of the ideas that I had presented. Parenting to me is the most important job we will ever do, and it's the job that we're not paid for. So I presented an idea at Arthur Lockjack, what if we can be paid to parent? And so for me, I think our education system needs to start to be, you know, a little bit tailored to creating that awareness that one day, you know, we all think about the careers, but we need to start to balance. One day I'm going to be a family person, I'm going to be a mom, I'm going to be a dad. How and what career am I choosing? Now, no one did that for me. I grew up very poor. I was a child witnessing abuse. And for me, it was a very unhealthy addiction to success because what I thought was, one, no man in ever kicking me out of no house. So I buy house by 24 years old. You know why? Because when I meet man, I done in my house. I bought my first Coach bag. Why? Because no man in ever saying that I ain't own nothing nice because, right? So I had that way of everything that I achieved must be 100% on my own. I lived like an island unto myself because there was no way in heaven's name anybody was ever going to throw things into my face. And that's not a healthy way to live. It really isn't. Then I had my daughter. And things changed because one, you can't raise your child no matter how you try. You cannot raise a child, an island unto yourself. You need a village. And that was where the whole healing process needed to happen, one. And that's where the career change needed to happen. Because what I had never thought about was, this is not a healthy lifestyle. I mean, I used to get into work for 4 a.m. I'd be driving out of the office at 9 p.m. with my phone to my ear, talking to my CEO about a report he won for first thing in the morning. I slept for very few hours. That couldn't work as a single mother. When I got pregnant, I thought she was going to have a driver, a nanny. She was not coming to, I was going to be that poster woman that we all think have it all. And then reality hit that them poster women really ain't have it all when you start to dig in and get to the bottom of it, right? And I started to dig into how could I take the skills that I have and somehow maybe work for myself, work from home, because what I don't want is to raise a child that's raised by a nanny and a driver. Yes, I don't want her to be poor. Yes, I don't want her to go through this cycle of poverty and abuse that I had seen. But what I also don't want her to have is a life void of love. So how in the world was I going to give her that financial life, but give her the emotional life? And I mean, so I sold my house. I was great. I was really fortunate enough that I had been able to save my friends used to make fun of me, right? Because them know I earning good income, but I still using Me Too and organic because I was saving so hard for the things that I wanted. And I mean, when I had left my job, we'd gone from eating steak to eating cricksa. Because obviously, and that's something that we say in Tell Me Your Business. You know, I tell people all the time, you have to be prepared for real sacrifice. Because it takes 5 years before you even start to make a dime. So you have to have your savings put aside and you have to be prepared to really, really sacrifice. I mean, I remember driving home and we're hungry in traffic and there's no money to stop for anything. Like $5 was, we can't stop for fries. We did groceries in my father's house. You know, we depended on food from people. You know, I would be crying like, God, please send something our way. You know, I did whatever odds and ends that we could. So it was a real sacrifice. 6 years into being on my own, and I mean, you know, thank God we are paying the bills. And we're doing it in a way where I am not exaggerating. Jessie and I were making a joke saying maybe we could start to calculate how much time we spend hugging up a day, like per day, because I guarantee we could hit some record on some Guinness Book of Records. Because we spend a lot of time, and they're growing up. I mean, I grew up thinking, well, if I earn $5,000, I like rich. Because on any given day, my mother had like $20 to $40 in her pocket after bills paid, and that's what getting us through the month, right? So for me, to be where I am now, I'm homeschooling my daughter, you know, we drive a car out of a showroom, things like that. And that's why I guess when I do work with women, I always start with my story because I know they see somewhere in the middle of the story, so they haven't seen the beginning and they haven't seen, and that's why I know that a lot of healing has to take place for you to believe that I am telling you, you are worth more than what you have. Because the things that are put into you, I mean, I was told all the time, who you feel you is, who you feel you is. Why do you want more? Because a lot of people, of course, think you want more means that you somehow, you know, don't appreciate what you, it's not that. I just want more. And so I do really, really, really firmly believe that we have to get into the psyche of parents, which is why I give my time so freely to mentoring mothers. Because I do think that the broken cycle needs to end, and they need to see that it is 100% possible. And how can we say, okay, look, maybe we could go and sell crab and dumpling. Maybe we could, so many girls sit down on the side of the road, cane rowing and doing weave and doing all kinds of stuff for free. I get real mad. So big up to my sea-lot skills. There's always say don't big them up, right? But I get mad at them because they're so talented. Why are you working? I always have said, don't ask me for no recommendation to go and work for CPEP. It's because I done give you a business plan, right? You're so talented, and the money that you're making ain't worth the time that you're spending on that. Let us take and fight up, and I will find the money, and I'd rather invest in buying the warmers and buying the whatever you need to go outside in the savannah and cook a crab and dumpling. Nobody allowed to take my idea. That's my girl from Steelers idea already, okay? And the money that she will earn will give her that independence a lot more than any CPEP job can. And it will give her the time to be home with her children. Because when you leave home at 4 or 5 to go to your job, your children are literally waking up, getting themselves ready, and you're depending on them they're raising themselves, not because the mothers are being delinquent, but the mothers have to go and work for a job that could barely pay a good babysitter. So it seems to be a cycle, you know?
Well, you're speaking a lot too that we were discussing earlier, that one of the elements we noticed in the national parenting policy too is how can corporates be more responsible in providing the types of leave that you need, the flexibility hours.
Which jobs can do from home. There are so many jobs that can be done from home that do not need to be done at work.
So this is when we talk about support, this is the type of supports we're looking at. Also, when we look at the corporate sector, how the banks and financial institutions supporting initiatives like what you're talking about with the young women who might be single mothers or coming out of adverse situations. How possible is it that, okay, you might take out your money and give them, but how possible is it that when they go to the bank
Oh,
From what
yeah,
I
don't get me
understand, to even
started.
open
I was told, I was
Yes.
asked, I was told, is this a real business or you're going on fish? That's what I was told.
Exactly.
That's what I was told.
You know,
I
so
mean,
so these are all of the things that I think we felt coming out of the that you're
Right.
touching on, coming
Yes.
out of the policy consultation that we felt needed to be addressed in closer detail, and we need to get
Okay.
more. What is the word? More.
I guess holistic support.
Yes, you know.
From the whole village.
Right. Yeah.
And
One
the
of the
corporate
things-
village.
One of the things that we need, and the policy addresses it, is child care. Because
Childcare.
you want persons to develop themselves, but when they go for training, what happens to their children? And we want to be able to have that training happening side by side with child care, so that
Awesome.
child care is provided and they could be comfortable that their children are well taken care of while they are at their training.
Well, that's a really good,
Work, eh?
or at work, yes.
Yes.
That's a really good note to end on. Before we go, I know we still have some more consultations. There's one coming up this week. Tell us about it.
Okay, we'll be having one on the 24th of April, Tuesday the 24th of April, at the South Academy for the Performing Arts.
Okay.
And that'll be from 5 to 7, 5 to 7:30.
Your Facebook page is very active. Is there any other way that they can find out what's going on, or should they keep updated through your Facebook page?
Well, we have the Facebook page. We have our website, www.social.gov.tt, and look out for us in the media. We have advertisements on the newspapers and also on radio.
Trinidad and Tobago, this is your opportunity to have your say. When the policy is passed, do not come and say that you had no idea about it. Please send your emails, send your suggestions, get involved, answer the questions. This is your chance to hold the authorities accountable. You've been watching Care. This was a little bit more political than our usual topics. Thank you guys. See you next week. Bye.